Angela, you turned in 3 programs this week. Uh, and I think this video is going to be too long. I hate making long videos, but we need to talk about all 3 of them because I'm really having a hard time grading them because I'm not seeing where your programming skills are improving any. I don't know if you're not practicing the programs in the lesson. If you're, I don't know. I mean, you're not absent that often, but I don't know how much you're paying attention to what I'm going through in the class. um, because your programs really aren't doing what they're supposed to do, or maybe they're doing just a little bit of what they're supposed to do. So I can give you a little bit of a grade, but I'm really not seeing any programming skills. I'm going to go through all 3 of the ones you turned in. The last one, the 3.02, you just copied 6 programs from our lesson. The lesson doesn't write our assignment. It shows you a lot of the skills you need to do the assignment, but the programs in the lesson are not the assignment, and you just copied 6 of them and made them one giant program. The biggest problem I'm having is I sent you a video 2 months ago after you did 1.05, and it had a lot of problems. You kept defining main over and over and over again. I think you were copying from the lesson then. And I went over that. You only have one main function, and yet this 3.02, you have 6 main functions again. So, like I say, I'm not seeing any improvement. You're making the exact same mistakes you made from 2 months ago when I gave you a video with all this feedback. So that's where I'm really having a hard time grading this because we're not improving. And next semester, we're going to pick up right where we left off this semester. So I don't know if you're still in programming for the full year, but there's a lot of skills you got to get. You probably need to go look at my videos on YouTube. It's at the top of a classroom that says the how-to videos. You probably need to review those. But let's go through your programs here. I'll try to make this quick, but I'm going to start with the 2.06 because that was the first one you turned in on Monday. By the way, I know you emailed me and asked for help, but then you've never come to class on like Thursdays and Fridays when we have those days where I'm not teaching, and I have been helping students write during those classes, but you haven't come there. So you said, I need some help with these programs, but then you haven't ever come to get any help. So I don't know what to do with that other than make these videos to help explain what I'm seeing. So let's look at the 2.06 program. Okay, so here's what you've turned in. It's 16 lines and it's almost all print statements. And except for this top line, this int, you've declared something an integer, but there's nothing in the parentheses. So I that really doesn't do anything. You said, hey, what's in this parentheses is an integer. Well, there's nothing in the parentheses. So that line is just totally wasted. Of course, every program, as I've said from the very beginning of the semester, every program should have your name, date, and purpose of your program. What program is this? Well, I know it's a 2.06 only because you turned it in for the 2.06, but you don't have your name, date, and purpose here. You haven't defined your main function, which we do every program. That's that first how-to video in YouTube. So you probably need to review that. When I run this, um, it just prints this processing meal cost. It says appetizer, and then it's got French onion soup in some squiggly parentheses, and then it's got 8.50 colon dot 2f in squigglies. I mean, this looks like you had AI write this, and then you tried to just copy and paste parts of it in here, because this is a bunch. I don't. I'd be confused if I had a receipt that looked like this. What's this colon dot 2f squiggly thing? That's and then subtotal for meal, subtotal colon dot 2f. Uh, 2 francs. Is this French money? I don't know what this subtotal even means. That's not a subtotal. Um, Tax and tip on all these dot 2f's everywhere. This is a very confusing output. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's look at what the program was supposed to do. Okay, here's the template that details the Module 2 project. He had some options. The first was the wish list. Now, it looks like you might have thought about the wish list because you started filling it out, but then you didn't do that. You did the eat, which is fine. That's great. Option 2. So it says list your favorite appetizer, entree, drink, dessert. Do your research, find the menu items. Think about what user input would be required for other people to use your program. Now, right now, everyone that uses your program just gets this output that lists these items with these .2f prices and weird things. So uh, this is only good for anyone that wants those 4 items. Think about how you write an equation to calculate. Yours does not calculate anything. It just prints out. Here's numbers. It does not calculate the subtotal. It does not calculate the total cost. It does not calculate the tax. It does not calculate the tip. It says your program should give out the name and of each appetizer, entree, drink, and dessert, which it does, including the prices, which it kind of does, but it's got this weird 2F thing added to it. It does not give the subtotal. It gives a tax with the .2F and a tip with a .2F, and some kind of total cost based on those. But again, let's go down. Okay, you didn't choose option 3. Here's the design. So step 2, define your main function. Did not do. Ask the user for 3 numeric values, which means at least 3. That means they should be entering the prices. Okay, for your appetizer, how much does that cost? They should enter that because it says ask the user for at least 3 values and declare them as either integers or floats. Now you declared nothing in integer up at the top, but these are probably float because they probably like $12.99 or something. You have, again, no calculations. And it's not really a well-organized output because it's kind of confusing with all these squigglies, .2Fs, and a bunch of extra stuff on there. All of your programs are missing the pseudocode, which is probably why you're having so much trouble. You never made a plan. This is where we plan it in plain English. Ask user for prices of app, entree, drink, dessert. I'm writing it in my plan. So when I write my program, I don't forget to do that. I got to ask the user for the prices of these 4 things. Et cetera, et cetera. Calculate, subtotal, tax, tip, total. I got to calculate all that. So I put it in my plan right here where I don't forget that. So then I write my code after I've got my plan. So you didn't do any of that. You don't have a heading that has your name, date, description when you're actually coding the program. After we write our plan and we code it, so you don't have any variables at all because you didn't do any calculations. Didn't do any inputs to save into variables. So, and you didn't answer these questions on this. So the questions on all of these are worth 20 points. The pseudocode's worth another 10 points. And so missing that, you're missing out on 30 points. Plus, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It doesn't do any of this stuff. Only thing it does is print some stuff. So I can give you a little bit of points. It does print things, but it doesn't calculate the things. It doesn't ask the user what the prices are. It's just some print statements. And our very, very first program of the year was just some print statements. So I know you know how to do print statements. This was supposed to be learning. Are you doing calculations? Are you doing user input? Those are the things you should be adding for this program to show your skills in doing that. And we're not seeing that. So that was the first program. Let's look at your math module program. Okay, this is the math module. Again, you start out with this little declare nothing an integer. We have a whole bunch of print statements. Now, at the beginning, you're supposed to have a print statement because you're creating a math problem. So this is pretty good. You are designing a cylindrical container. This program will calculate the volume, which is what I can hold, and the surface area. Okay, that is good. You're supposed to print your word problem. Then you are supposed to ask the user radius and height. Ask the user what is needed for the calculations. That's great. You enter the radius. You're asking the user enter the radius and enter the height. I don't know what this is, 2.0 and 5.0, because I don't know what size the user's cylinder is. Maybe I'm going to use this candle I have sitting under my desk or a can of Coke or something. I don't know. And then you got this print /n result. Let's run this. Okay, I'm going to say the radius is 10 and the height is 15. Okay, here's what print your word problem. That's good. It asked me the input. That's good. Here's the results. It says your container has a radius of 2 inches. No, it doesn't. It was 10. I typed it in. And a height of 5 inches. And then it says the volume in the container is 62.80:.2F cubic inches. That's a weird number. And the surface area is 87.92:.2F square inches. So this is not right because that's not the numbers I gave it. This is not the cubic inches because it's not even using the numbers I gave it. I don't know. But if I look at this after I enter those two things, all there is 5 print statements. There's no main function. There's no name, date, purpose, all that still. And there's no calculations. Nowhere did you calculate the volume and the surface area. You saved what I put. It's right there, radius STR. So if I said print radius underscore STR, since that's what you named it, and then I'll print just a blank line to separate it. So before and after, I'm going to print a break line just to make sure this is working. So if I run this and I'm going to type in 10 and see if it prints out 10, 10, 15. Yeah, it's printing out 10. So it did save my 10. You just didn't use it. See, there's the 10 that I entered. I said, print that. So it probably saved my 15 right there like it's supposed to. But there's the 10. Let's look at the template to see what this program was supposed to do. Okay, here's the math module template. Again, you don't have a heading with your name, date, short description. And then these are even check boxes. When you get it done, you can check it off. So, you're not going through this and checking out the things. Be sure to define your main function. It's right there in the instructions. Didn't do that. Meaningful names. Now, you did have a meaningful name for your variables. I like that because you called it the height and radius. Those are good. Create a word problem that involves calculating volume surface area. You did that, and you get to choose one of these. You did a right cylinder. So you're supposed to use this for the volume and use this for the surface area. You had 3 choices. This is the most complicated formulas. That's cool. I'm proud of you choosing that. Print a description. You did that. We'll check that off. Ask the user to enter information necessary. You did that. So you got part of this program right. Use 3.14 for the value pi. Well, if you would have done calculations, that's what you need, and print the results of each calculation, but you didn't do any calculations, and write the pseudocode. Again, missing the pseudocode. Make a plan. Print word problem, which you did. Ask user for radius and height, which you did. Calculate volume. You did not calculate surface area. You did not. And then print the results, which you didn't print. You used to do some print statements, but that's not the results of the calculations because you didn't have any, and it's wrong. It didn't. I entered 10 and 15. That's not the area. So, there's more to finish there. I didn't finish the pseudocode, but I'm just starting out saying you need some pseudocode in there. That's not finished. And again, 20 points here. You didn't review your question. Now, I don't know if you're having AI write a lot of this, and maybe you don't have any review because you didn't write it. But let's see. You missed a lot of things there just because your program is mostly print statements. Although you got a good start. This one you actually got a good start. You did have the word problem. You did ask the user to enter all that. You just stopped right there. You didn't do any of these calculations. You didn't use anything that the person typed. So you had part of it. All right, let's look at the third program. Okay, this is probably the one that made me the saddest when I look at it because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This looks kind of familiar. And the whole assignment was to draw something, right? And right off the bat, I look at this and like, this doesn't draw anything. There's no turtle graphics here. I see a loop. You're supposed to use a loop to draw stuff, but it's like when I run this, I can count 0 Texas. Well, the program in the lesson said Mississippi because when you count, the length of time it takes to say Mississippi is about a second. So if you're wanting to count 10 seconds, you can go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and it'll be pretty accurate about 10 seconds. 0 Texas, 1 Texas, 2 Texas, 3, that would be too fast. So that doesn't even make sense to use Texas instead of Mississippi. But when I look at this, it's like I can count, and it counts to 20. Then it does this n equals 5 to 20. Then it has a countdown from 15 to 1. Blast off. I can count by tens and add them up, and yet apparently I can't. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. That's not counting by tens. So That's confusing for your program. Then it has a total down here, and then there's an error. Oh, the program stopped because there's an error. Something pagey is not defined on line 88. So you have a very, very long program. It goes all the way down to line 91, and this one is an error, and this would probably be an error too. Pagey and page would both create an error because there's no turtle named Pagey or page. We haven't named it. The turtle was named Lena apparently in this last one. But look, I see define main, define main, define main, define main. I talked about in that video 2 months ago saying you only have one main function, but this one has 6, and it's got all this going on. So I got to look at this. I'm like, this is from our lesson. You didn't write any of this. So let's go look at the assignment real quick. For loops. Decide on some repetitive pattern or outline of a shape, maybe a house or something. Give your artwork a name, print the name to the output. You didn't do that even though you have a bunch of drawing things. If you use for loops in the turtle module, draw the outline and use at least one for loop that repeats at least 3 times and use one color apart from black. Write the pseudocode. Again, no pseudocode. You didn't make a plan. No heading that has your name, date, and short description. So up at the top, we start with loop ranges and then loop ranges again. Output should be something like this, a house or some pattern. Post a screenshot of your output. Now, you did actually answer some questions this time, so I can give you 20 points there. Learn how to program loops on idle. That is kind of the purpose of the program. But I went back because I'm like, okay, how much programming did you actually do? How much can I actually give you credit for? How much code did you write? So I looked at this program and I went back and said, okay, I'm going to look at what you turned in and what was in the lesson that you obviously copied 6 programs from the lesson. Here was what you turned in. Here's what the first program was on that page. You copied all 6 from that same page. All you changed was the number of loops, and you changed Mississippi to Texas. So you didn't write any code. I'll just go in and change some of their numbers and stuff. I'll just rename the turtle Lucy instead of Trevor, and have Lucy get a pink pen instead of a blue pen, and I'll change it to go to 21 instead of going to 25. So you didn't write any code there. You're just like, I'll just change things. Just change a couple things to make it look different. Here, instead of counting from 10 to 0 on the countdown, you just count from 15 to 0. You changed one number. You changed that 0 to a 5. Otherwise, that's the exact same program in the lesson. Here again, we just renamed the turtle and gave the turtle a different color and started it at a little different spot on the screen. I'll start at negative 35 instead of negative 30. And instead of the loop counting down to 0, you decide, well, I'll just count down to 1. So it does one less loop. And you have it move forward 10 more pixels. So again, you're just going in just to change a thing or two to make it look like a different program. But it's still like you took the program from the lesson and didn't write any of your own. Here's the one that you said I can count by 10s and add them up, but it doesn't. It still counts by 5s. Because the only thing you changed was the print statement. You didn't change it to make it count by 10s. And then here's the last program you stole from the lesson. You just changed the name to Lena instead of Taya. You changed the loop to go from 2 to 50 instead of 2 to 26, but you had it count by 2s instead of counting by 1s. Changed going forward 15 pixels instead of 10 pixels, turn 20 degrees instead of 15 degrees, and make a 30 diameter circle instead of a 5 diameter circle. And you change these names to turtles that didn't exist. Pagey and Page are not defined. There's no turtles with those names. So that hit an error right there at the end. But you kept the defined main every time. It'd been even better if you wouldn't have had all the main functions. If you had one main function, I might say, well, at least there's improvement. At least there's improvement, because she didn't give me main over and over again. But you did. So I'm not seeing any programming skill improvement. Yes, you need some help. I can tell because you still seem like you're just totally lost. But you're not coming in when I can provide help in those. That's what those asynchronous days are for. Or schedule a time with me. It's like, oh, I can't be there during class. Can we meet at 10:30? Yes, I can open up a Google Meet at 10:30. Um, Again, I have those videos in Google Classroom. If you don't know where they're at, I'll put that up on the screen. In our Google Classroom, right here at the top, Mr. Brock's How To series. And when you click on that, these are little 2, 3, 4 minute videos. What every program should include, how to write, run, and save programs. You might know that one. It's 2 minutes. How to do print statements, how to use variables, how to do input statements, how to do math calculations, how to do for loops, while loops we learned this week, turtle graphics, and if statements. I think this will be more what we're going to learn right here at the end or beginning of January, one or the other. But this is all this stuff we've learned this first semester. And these are just, well, the turtle graphics is 10 minutes. It takes a little more to learn the turtle, but these are 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, very short videos that you'll need to know, because starting in January, we're going to pick up right where we left off, and we're going to assume we already know how to do all this stuff. What do we need to learn now? So, all right, let me get this video to you. Sorry it's so long, but we're covering 3 programs there and just trying to help you be better and learn more. So let me know if you got questions. If you want to get together and meet and try to redo some of this together, that would be fine too. Just let me know what I can do. See you later. See you in class.